for nighttime racing at the 2 Mile Speedway. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Ross Brockman, and Ross here tonight as we've had these previous 13 races. We come into our final race of the regular season with the storylines mostly being drivers trying to make their way in more so than drivers trying to stay in.
Yeah, and I think after a long season, your consistency has got you to here. And if you're any of those drivers, pretty much in the top 9, you're feeling pretty good. A lot of them are locked in, and one's about to be locked in once we get going here pretty quickly. And then it's just a matter of these last guys. I think the bubble battle we're going to see for that final spot tonight is going to be really fun. But I think they're all probably excited to go to Auto Club here, a track that has a lot of options, the wide turns. You can control your destiny a little bit, and I think that these drivers are glad that they have at least some say in that battle as they battle it out here at Auto Club.
There's a look there at those point standings there around that cut line. Top 10 in points will make their way into the postseason. We've been told Zachary Henry in the 12 is ineligible for running in the playoffs. So while he holds that 10th position, the drivers behind him, they're looking, if not to jump above Henry for that 10th spot, they're looking to finish in the 11th position. There's about a half dozen drivers, a couple of them some long shots, but a half dozen drivers that could be in that conversation. Some good starting track position here tonight for some drivers in that conversation, as grabbing the pole here tonight, it's going to be Josh Robin in that Milwaukee Tools number 8. He's going to share the front row with multi-time winner on the season, the driver who's already locked into the playoffs, Matthew Weeks.
In our second row, we have the 10 of Hunter Brittle, and alongside him will be the 24 of Tony Maggi, but he'll have to serve a penalty at the start.
Ashton Lawson, we saw him have a great run last time out. He's going to roll up on the inside of row number 3. Alongside the driver comes in leading the overall point standings, Christian Peterson.
Starting 7th, one of those guys that's looking to get his race his way in. Matthew Durr, a great qualifying effort, and then our Daytona winner from the start of the season, the 23 of Spencer Owens.
Good qualifying effort for these drivers back in row 5. Robin Durr going to be on the inside of row number 5. And the top 10 completed with our winner from earlier on this season at Martinsville, Jared Duda.
Starting 11th, Elliot Henderson in that 37. He's going to be a playoff driver this year. And then Jared Darling looking to just seal up that that 9th place spot in the playoff order.
Ty Jackson's going to be back in row number 7 alongside another driver. 6th in overall points coming in tonight, locked into the playoffs. Still looking for his first win of the season, Shane Neiswanger.
Starting 15th, we have Nathan Nixon, and starting 16th, the 73 of Kyle Cooper.
Jackson Sims, he's locked into the playoffs as he'll make up row number 9 alongside of one of those long shot drivers here, Michael Sensi.
Another one of those drivers looking to erase their win. Gonna have to do it from the 19th spot. That's the 40 of Nicholas Kressel, and starting next to him is the 41 of Justin Mons.
Eric Kepf is going to be back in the 11th row. Alongside of him, a driver that finally broke back into victory lane last week, the defending champion of the series. He'll be going playoff racing to defend his title, the 7 of Hunter Madalinas.
Starting 23rd, the 00 of Aiden DuPont, who still mathematically has a shot. He's going to need a big night tonight. Otherwise, it's next to him is the guy that's going to try to hold them all off, the 5 of Brent Kingcott.
A couple of drivers we haven't seen in the field for a while. Good to see Gavin Fitzgerald and his number 14 back in the 13th row, and he'll be alongside of Evan Snyder in the 83, making that the 93.
Starting 27th, the 45 of Kurt Gibson, and starting 28th, the 89 of Christopher Melton.
Rod Fastnow is going to be back in the 29th position. James Shiflett to his outside in 30th, and Blair Neabone going to be making up the 31 truck starting lineup here this evening. So a lot of points up for grabs for those drivers that are in the borderline must win, must top 5, must top 10 scenario here. If they can come away with a great run tonight, big opportunity for them to maybe snipe that final spot in the playoffs. 80 laps, 160 miles await these drivers before we officially have our top 10 drivers compete for the championship in the playoffs. We're racing under the lights at Auto Club. mentioned, Ross, lots of room to race here. About 5 distinct grooves you can see here through 1 and 2. Be interesting to see just how far they will venture up the track, depending on how much rubber gets laid down during the course of this race.
Yeah, with these trucks, especially nighttime racing, there's plenty of grip right away, and I think a lot of these drivers, you can see them already trying to gain some positions. Just everybody bunched up. That's the time to do it, and I think some of these guys maybe try to save a little bit, but you got to be careful because you could really easily lose a bunch of spots when you're all kind of packed up like this.
See that pink truck right there moving from bottom to top, that one of Jared Darling. When we showed you the points coming into tonight, he was in the 9th position in the standings. Now, mathematically, he could have a bad enough night where he'd fall outside of the top 10, but I think you said before we came on the air, this is about a target position that he needs to finish, and he'd be safely locked in.
Yeah, and I think ultimately that's about as many cars we have racing tonight. So even if he finishes last in this one, it's going to be tough. He's going to need one of those guys, really Caressel, to have a solid night, and potentially get the pole, which he didn't, and lead a bunch of laps. So yeah, right now it looks good for Jared Darling. It's really going to come down to that last spot. I know Brent Kincott, we saw him starting kind of towards the back more. I just wonder, if that puts a little pressure on him as we roll here through these initial starting laps to see if you can get some track position.
Riding on board with Elliott Henderson. This is the battle for 7th. Looking ahead here to Jared Duda, couple of former winners on the season. Henderson coming into this race 2nd in points, has had a really solid regular season here, and a little lizard featured there on the hood of that number 37 Chevrolet Silverado. 21 points out of the points lead coming into tonight, only to Christian Peterson.
And there's some bonus points for being the number one, if the number 1 seed, if you can lock that up tonight. So we'll have to keep an eye on that a little bit. Peterson having a great start so far, just moved up to 2nd, moving his way right behind his another one of his competitors for this championship, more than likely Matthew Weeks. Now he's going to look to the inside, try to make the pass here.
Peterson and Matthew Weeks are 2 of 4 multi-time winners on the season. Hunter Madalinas and Daniel Nanny being the other 2. And I have to wonder here for Weeks, for Peterson, we just saw Henderson there, Spencer Owens, drivers that obviously are already locked in on points, but have also gone to victory lane this season. How do they approach tonight? Do they just treat this as a go out there, have some fun, try and see if you can maybe snipe another victory before the regular season comes to a close? Or are you coming out here maybe already in playoff mentality, because you kind of consider the fact that momentum to cap off the regular season could translate to good momentum once the playoffs begin?
Yeah, I think momentum's great. If you can have a solid run tonight, you probably will feel confident heading into the playoffs. The other thing that I always like, especially any type of postseason type of format, is sometimes it's great to have friends out there when you're racing for points week after week, especially once you get into those playoffs. So maybe not upsetting any of your competitors tonight is probably another thing that I'd love to see. Is like if you're any of these drivers, because Peterson's going to look to the inside again here on Weeks going into 3.
That's a really good point, because you consider a couple of tracks that we've got coming up here on the playoff schedule. I'm looking at Darlington, I'm looking at Rockingham, New Hampshire, Iowa. You get on the wrong side of one of your competitors, plenty of opportunity there at some of those racetracks where you're up each other's gearboxes to maybe have them give the opportunity of paying you back when it matters the most, with a championship hanging in the balance. Great battle up here at the front. Again, as mentioned, multi-grooves available for these drivers. You can drive it in on the inside line, but you can get that momentum on the outside line. Keys for the side-by-side racing here, as Peterson not going to give up. Right behind him is Hunter Brittle in the 10. Now the Great Lakes Truck Series has been here to Auto Club 4 times in the past. All 4 former winners are in the field here tonight. Brittle is one of them, as well as Elliott Henderson, Hunter Madalinas, and Nathan Jump. So be interesting to see if any of that quartet are able to get their 2nd career win at this speedway.
And this time Peterson down on the inside entering in 1. He's kind of made that pass attempt in 3 every time. I think this is a little more interesting. If he can keep his momentum up here, I wonder if he can drive it in deep enough into 3. It falls back so much here that it just makes it so tough to potentially try to, almost slide job Weeks if he wanted to. But yeah, he's going to back off here and kind of just reset. He got that bump draft down the front the last lap from Brittle. Maybe going to try that again here.
Yeah, Hunter Brittle almost in a must-win situation coming into tonight. He's a total of 37 points behind 10th in the standings, Zachary Henry. But if we're looking in relation to that final playoff spot with the 12 not eligible for being in the playoffs, we're looking at 34 points, the difference between Hunter Brittle and Brent Kingcott. So it's kind of a control what you can control if you're the 10. You can't really control where the 5's going to finish in this race. But I think if you're Hunter Brittle, you've got to do exactly what he's doing here. He qualified at the front, he's running at the front, and make sure you finish as close to the front as you can here tonight.
Well, I think if you're any of these drivers that are far enough back that you almost need your competitors that you're racing for that last spot in the playoffs to have problems, you need them to have problems, and in order for them to have problems, you probably don't want to be near them either. So like, beat up here up front, knowing that your competitors are somewhere else on the track. Hopefully, you don't want to hope for chaos, but it's really your only chance. And I think this is a good spot to be if you're Brittle, being up near the front here, just putting a little pressure on maybe some of these drivers that are trying to move their way up.
Great night last week in the desert at Phoenix for KFS Motorsports as 2 of their drivers finished up on the podium. That locked Jackson Sims into the playoffs and put Brent Kingcott into the conversation to maybe get that final spot. As here we look at that 5 truck currently being scored back in the 19th position. He's back here just behind his teammate Jackson Sims. He said last week Jackson was the one that made the call for them to start saving fuel and try and make it to the end. He's back here with Jackson again. You almost kind of wonder if he's letting Jackson kind of lead the way here towards the front as they try and get 2 representatives inside of the playoff grid.
Yeah, and I see, Matthew Durr had that great qualifying run, but he's moved back a couple positions, about 5 positions since the start. Caressel is behind, just directly behind Kingcott here, so if you're Brent, you're probably feeling pretty good. This has gotten pretty calm so far, just kind of making laps, getting through the first portion of this race. I think this has been so far so good, even though the qualifying run was maybe not where he wanted it to be.
Brent had 10 points over both Caressel and Durr coming into this race. So just manage that gap is what he's got to do. And to your point, kind of in the same zip code, same neighborhood as those drivers. So as long as he keeps them within where he's at in the field, more than likely not going to be in as much danger of losing that final playoff position. Saw right behind him was Hunter Madalinas in the 7. Starting to see him working his way up through the field there in the 20th position, coming off the heels of that second victory on the season last week at Phoenix. And I mentioned this before, maybe the last thing you want is for a driver that won the championship 1 season ago is to have him getting hot here at the end of the regular season with the playoffs looming.
Yeah, and I think there has to be a little bit of I guess, kind of confusion here that he didn't qualify very well. So maybe just a mistake in qualifying for a guy that has won here before, like you mentioned, and also really can compete anywhere. Being able to see him just slowly work his way through the field will be fun to watch the rest of this night.
Something I've been watching here, especially with some of these drivers we've been watching around this mid-pack area, is talk about the spaciousness of this racetrack, but we're seeing a lot of side-by-side battling and not really being able to complete the pass within a couple of corners. You have to actually work on it for a few laps before you finally are able to either complete the pass or have to throw up your hands and give up the position here. Is that the tires coming into play here? Because this racetrack, you can definitely see the seams, you can see the cracks. I've been watching these drivers on the splitter bouncing as they make their way through the corners. Are these tires taking enough of a beating that the maneuverability is starting to go away the longer the run goes on?
It definitely will. I mean, obviously this is a track that, really will tear up tires. I mean, we're down, I'm looking here, over a second slower than some of their fastest laps for these drivers. So, definitely the tire wear is a big part of, this old Auto Club Speedway. But yeah, I think the passing side of it, once you, get the opportunity to maybe have a little bit fresher tires, it just seems to take a lot of effort to get around the driver in front of you. I feel like a lot of these guys that maybe saved early probably are like, well, now it's going to, the 5 positions I gave up for saving, it's going to take me, the entire rest of the run to get those 5 positions back. So I think that just passing can be tough once you get on those older tires. The momentum on the outside lane, we've seen that work pretty well so far tonight.
Look at Matthew Durr, one of those drivers in the conversation to try and get that final spot in the playoffs. Right now, just outside the top 10 in the 13th position. Good run for him in the early going. And as you alluded to as well, right around those other drivers he needs to be. Brent Kincott about 4 positions back. Nicholas Caressel has actually fallen all the way back to 25th, so not sure what's happened to him in the last few laps here. And we're just kind of keeping an eye at the front of the field. We were watching Jared Duda and Hunter Elliott Henderson were battling for 7th. They're now in 3rd and 5th. Josh Robin, who started on the front row, and Matthew Weeks, who was up battling for the lead in the early going, they've now faded back to the last 2 trucks inside the top 10.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with Weeks there. Obviously, he lost the front running spot, running up front, but maybe a guy that used up his stuff early. I see a lot of these drivers, Henderson, Darling, that gained 8+ positions so far. Maybe the strategy of saving their tires really worked well, and you're able to jump a bunch of drivers here because, yeah, we're seeing a wide mix of up and down from where these drivers started. And yeah, that's nice to see the opportunity to pass. I guess is better than what it looks like. Like I said, it looks like it's been tough to make those passes, but ultimately, some of these drivers falling back have gifted some positions to the drivers that are able to keep the momentum up.
Darling Ashton Lawson, this is for 4th position here. Lawson trying to work his way further up inside of the top 5, trying to do a little side draft here down the back straightaway. I mean, you get that big run off of 2, you try and make the move to the inside, and most everybody's kind of lined up there against the outside wall, so you don't get that straight line speed by virtue of the draft that you need, and you end up giving up a position rather than picking up the spot you were going for. See right there, Lawson was 5th. He stepped out to try and take 4th. Now he crosses the line back in 6th.
It's easy to lose a couple positions if you have something go wrong. We see Nicemonger going all the way to the bottom here. This might work pretty well for him to get around Owens. But then, the momentum from Owens here, he's going to, Nicemonger wasn't able to clear him because of the 8 truck of Robin. So Owens is going to battle back on the outside. They're going to go 3 wide here, maybe. That's awesome racing for all 3 of these guys to be so close together and ultimately feel in control. You see now Robin's going to look to the inside of Lawson. Depends on where your momentum's at. You have plenty of space to get away from your competitors, which is nice to see on a night like this where there's a lot on the line.
Mentioned that one key word, and we abused it back at the sister track of Michigan, momentum. This is a speedway, but it takes a lot of super speedway aspects into its style of racing as well. The draft, the side drafting, having friends out there when you're either coming to pit road or leaving pit road, and momentum a key factor as well. If you're going to make that pass, you better complete it, because if you breathe the throttle, if you bail out for just a brief moment, guarantee you there's going to be a multitude of drivers behind you that still have their pedal to the floor that are going to be willing to take advantage of you having that loss of momentum. You see right here, Hunter Brittle, he tried to take the spot away from Christian Peterson, couldn't get the job done. All of a sudden, that hole to his right has been filled by Elliott Henderson.
Yeah, Brittle did a nice job in 1 and 2 the last lap of just running way up at the top. I thought that was something that was like, I haven't seen anybody run that high yet, and give him a huge run, but he still wasn't able to clear Peterson. I think he was hoping Henderson here would give him a push, and he did this time now down the backstretch. We'll see if right here is where you want to just make sure you have enough momentum to stay even, so then maybe potentially you can drive in deep and make this pass. Right now, I feel like Brittle's maybe going to have a shot here, especially if Henderson gives him a little push in the win.
Peterson trying to hold off the Lizard Brigade there of Brittle and Henderson. Jared Darling looking on, along with the 53 of Jared Duda. And we mentioned about the fact Duda had a strong, dominating performance back at the Paperclip Short Track of Martinsville. Now, he is not mathematically eligible to be able to get up into the top 10 in points, but I don't think that's going to make him any less hungry of joining the very short list of drivers that have been able to go to victory lane multiple times here this season.
Yeah, just overall this battle side by side. We saw it earlier with Weeks up there. It just seemed like maybe the outside lane was able to hold on to the lead for a while, but then once you lost it, it seemed like Weeks just fell so fast. So I don't know if that's burning up their tires a little bit more or what, but this time Brittle's going to have the run into one. He's going to clear Peterson and take the lead.
So Hunter Brittle, former winner here at this racetrack, now out in clean air. Henderson going to have to tuck in line in third, as now Peterson will look to cross him over. He wants the top position back here. Good racing for the lead. The pass, the crossover, the comeback on the outside here, the side drafting. This has been some great battling we've seen. Peterson versus Weeks, now Peterson versus Brittle. And I certainly don't want to tempt fate with the great racing we've had, but how soon do these drivers have to start turning their mindset from this side-by-side racing on the racetrack to potential side-by-side pacing on pit road?
Yeah, I just saw Nathan Nixon, who was running 22nd. He was the first to hit pit road. I think that any of these drivers could start making those pit stops here in a little bit. I think you want to stretch this as far as you can. I think lap 26 would maybe give you the best chance to cut this race into thirds. If you don't, if you're pitting a little bit early, like you're Nixon right now, it's going to be a short-term gain for potentially a long-term loss. So it just depends on when the cautions fall, if they do. I think right now, maybe a couple more laps, we're going to see a bunch of drivers come down. When you're running a track like this with a lot of speed and not a lot of off-throttle time, a lot of them seem to all pit at the same time. So we got to watch here if they all are coming down to pits. You got to be careful just running each other over and making sure we get through a green flag pit stop.
Green flag racing is a lot of fun to watch when you're a spectator, but one driver in the field that is wanting to see that caution come out, you documented him on the grid. Tony Manji had to do a pass-through penalty at the beginning of this race. He's on the tail end of the lead lap, but nowhere close to the tail end of the lead pack. There you see the Quaker State Chevrolet all by his lonesome. He came into this race 14th in points, only 11 points out of the final spot in the playoffs. Still mathematically had a shot, but he needs the caution to come out to be able to catch up to the rest of the field to make forward progress up the lineup.
Yeah, and a Hail Mary chance, when you're one of those guys that's so far behind the pack, you think, okay, maybe I can save a little fuel and run a little bit longer, but it's so tough with a track that has draft like this. He's been by himself, so using up all of his stuff, and ultimately he's probably going to be pitting just as fast as all these leaders will be. So yeah, he's really just hoping for a caution to save his race. That happens sometimes. Obviously you gotta, sometimes week to week there are penalties for mistakes in these races, and obviously issues with incidents. So unfortunately for Manji, going to have to make up a big hole here if you can't get a caution.
Hunter Brittle and Elliott Henderson now 1 and 2 as Henderson crosses low to try and see if he get to the left rear off of 2. Can't quite do it. 2 former winners here at this racetrack now leading the field. Jared Darling has now moved into that 3rd position here. As we mentioned, you said, with the number of drivers we have in the field, he's pretty much locked in now. He's been in the conversation numerous weeks here during the regular season of being able to close out the deal and find victory lane. Here tonight, you kind of feel like the motivation just keeps ramping up week after week after week. Right now, good view ahead of him of this side-by-side battle for the race lead. Jared Darling, once again, another week where he's in the conversation. Can tonight, the regular season finale, be the night that he goes into the playoffs with a race victory under his belt?
I sure hope so, because I can tell how badly he wants it. I think, we've heard him multiple times. We've had the opportunity to chat with him, and we've had so many times where it's like early part of the race, we're talking about him being one of those top 3 or 4 trucks battling for the lead, and then something happens. So hopefully nothing happens tonight. He's able to keep it clean and execute the race, and then ultimately be there at the end. I think he'll have a great shot. Him and Henderson kind of basically been on the same schedule, both up 9 spots here. He's kind of just been following the 37, just making their way up through the field. And I think both of them a nice strategy this first run to save their tires up and make it work. So I'm kind of impressed that we've gone a little farther than I thought with some of these drivers with pit stops. I see Robin Durr now came down to pit, so sounds like maybe the 71. Obviously, we saw him running the outside a lot of laps there and fell back now. He looks like he's going to hit pit road with a handful of others tonight or right now.
Christian Peterson, point leader, going to be one of the first of our leaders to dive onto pit lane. Ooh, you saw him hard under braking there, coming to the commitment line. Had to gather that truck up, get it pointing in the right direction. He's going to be joined by Gavin Fitzgerald, future playoff driver, and Jackson Sims on pit road. Kyle Cooper, Rod Fastnow, Eric Kemp, Blair Neobone, and Kurt Gibson all in this lap.
And I think if you're any of these drivers that just hit pit road, you're hoping that this next group keeps it pretty clean when they come down. I think there's going to be a big group here hitting pit road. We'll see if they can execute this green flag pit stop. This is the tough part. Ooh, Brittle's going to slide!
Whoa! Right in front of the drivers coming behind him onto pit road. Another one slideways back there, and Evan Snyder, he's able to save it. Costly there for Hunter Brittle, though. And that's going to lose him a bunch of positions, a bunch of track time there as well. It also looked like somebody just before this group was coming down pit lane may have missed their pit stall. Does that bring Kincott sideways there? Yes, it is. He missed his pit stall there as he was 90 degrees facing the pit wall. He's going to have to back up to his stall. That's a costly mistake for the driver that basically came in as the cut line driver for the final spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a tough spot. He not only did he miss it, he kind of just a bad spot to miss it. Took him a couple, attempts to get it, lined up right, which is ultimately just, killing time. So he's going to be by himself here, not have much drafting help. It's going to be that's a tough spot for Kincott. I think he's going to need to almost get a caution to get back in this race. I don't know. He may have to just kind of wait and see where some of his competitors are running after these green flag pit stops. Brittle, on the other hand, that big spin, he ultimately is still going to be in the pack, but obviously lost all of his track position. Guys like Hunter Manalinas, Michael Senzi, Nicholas Caressel, they all were some of the last ones to pit on this cycle. I like that, being able to go as far as you can. They're going to have some, at least a lap or two fresher tires on their competitors. We'll see if they can move their way up now.
Could be wrong. It might have been the 89 of Christopher Melton. I think he was backwards in his pit stall there on pit road. So a lot of pit road miscues going on here during this first cycle of green flag pit stops. Just now north of 30 laps completed in this 80 lap event. For some drivers, they executed perfectly on, during, and off pit road, but quite a number of drivers that were looking like they were in good shape, all of a sudden, they're going to be a little bit nervous here for the second half of this one, as pit road did not pan out in their favor. Hunter Brittle looks like he's going to cycle somewhere around the 17th position. Brent Kincott, after his moment, he is back in 27th. So now you definitely know he's going to be keeping an eye on where the 40 car is here on the racetrack. That obviously the 24 as well is not much of a factor with him still not getting the caution there, but also the 18 of Matthew Durr, he's obviously got to take this information and figure out, what do I need to do to get back up there with these guys?
Yeah, it's tough. It looks like
there's
89
Melton.
came across the 5 there. Maybe the 00 also kind of touched Kincott coming in there.
Right there, as he's concentrating, getting into, oh yeah, you should see right there, as he's concentrating not having the 89 coming across his nose, I think it kind of took his focus off of where his pit sign was. And then you saw that little follow-up contact with the 00 of Aiden DuPont. So tough break there. The pit road here at Auto Club, it's not narrow compared to other racetracks, but it does have that attenuator wall. So there, if you have a situation like that, you don't have the option to swing out to the right into the infield grass. If you swing out to the right, you're going to make contact with that attenuator wall. So while it's not narrow in terms of spaciousness, it is narrow in terms of what your options are if something happens in front of you.
for sure. And I think, you called it. I think it just was a little bit of a distraction for the 5, and ultimately, it's hard to maintain focus when you see somebody else kind of almost making a mistake or ultimately just not giving you the room that maybe you expected. So the other thing that it did is you see Brittle when he did that slide. Obviously, he was right in front of Henderson. Henderson just had a longer pit stop here, and it gave Duda and Neiswanger both a little bit faster on pit road. They're racing him now for the second spot. So it maybe Henderson lost a little bit of time. Ultimately, still has all three of these drivers have a little lap fresher tires than Peterson. They're going to probably run him down at some point. Just may take the whole run, but ultimately it worked out for Peterson to be able to grab this lead by doing the short pit.
Pit road can play just as much a factor into the outcome of a race as what happens up here on the racing surface itself. Now, math has never been my strong suit, but I do believe, and we'll take a look at the live point standings, I believe that Matthew Durr has now leapfrogged Brent Kincott. There you see it, by 4 points. So that pit road miscue now has the 5 out of the final playoff spot. Matthew Durr just barely in.
I think both of them are going to slowly be able to pick up some positions just because they both were a little bit later on the pit cycle. So I like that. You just wonder though, how much knowledge do they have of that math? Like if you're Durr, you might maybe know where Kincott is. Do they have an extra guy that's in their chat telling them like, okay, the math is working out in your favor right now, or are they just racing straight up? I think if you're some of these drivers on the cut line, you maybe would want to change your strategy just to make sure you have a chance to jump these guys. And I don't know, it'll be interesting to see if we get a chance to talk to one of them afterwards, just how much knowledge they have of those points, and if they're, we're having a tough time doing the math up here, let alone these guys driving the trucks.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of times when I talk to drivers like that near the end of a regular season or even during elimination races in the playoffs, whatever it may be, I'll ask them that question. I'll be like, hey, are you keeping track of points? Are you keeping track of positions based off what the scenario was coming into the night? And I'll get two answers. One is, yeah, I knew what the scenario was. I knew what the points were. I kept track of it during the entire race, which makes me think, boy, with everything else you got to worry about, how in the world do you have time to be able to do all those calculations? For other ones, kind of like what you were talking about there, it's just, nope, I put a target position in my head, I go for it, and let the points fall where they may. It's a distraction if I end up trying to work on points while I'm racing.
Yeah, it's just a interesting dynamic. I've loved to, I loved those moments of battling in elimination races and in all kinds of different leagues. It's kind of fun to go through that, pressure cooker of gathering points and trying to advance. So it's big moment here for these drivers, Durr and Kincott here battling for that final spot, and a couple other drivers maybe just hoping to jump in there at the end. Now Henderson's finally caught up to Peterson with Duda and Neiswanger in tow. We'll see how long it'll take them to potentially pass him. Like I said, only 1 lap fresher tires, so not a huge advantage, but obviously a little bit of advantage as now it looks like Duda's going to push his teammate back by Henderson, and they're both going to clear him.
Great 4-car battle here, about to maybe become a 6-truck battle, as this side-by-side, the side drafting, towing each other back, is allowing Ashton Lawson to enter into this conversation, as well as Spencer Owens. Owens got that victory at the very start of the season at Daytona, and he's been, let's call a spade, quietly consistent for the rest of the regular season. He's not done anything super flashy like he was able to do at Daytona, but he's always been able to get up there in the top 5, the top 10 late, been able to sneak his way up there in the finishing results. And, when you look at the tracks we've got coming up here in the playoffs, I feel like there's going to obviously be some emphasis on getting those race victories, but I feel like consistency is going to be key. And when you look at some of these drivers like a Spencer Owens, that every week, no matter what the configuration, comes away with top 10s, top 5s, every single night, you've got to think that that's got you as potentially a favorite to be able to get that championship trophy at the end of the season.
It's going to be a lot about survival, at least for the first couple weeks. Make sure you don't have a problem, because I think if you have a bad race, that really kind of takes you out. There's no mulligans, so it just takes some, a lot more great finishes in a row to make up for a bad finish. So if you can avoid those, we've had our guys like Peterson, Weeks, Henderson, the guys that are up there battling, for these race wins. Sometimes they also have bad races. So a guy like Spencer Owens, who just has kept it clean every single week, that's a huge advantage. Nicewanger is another one of them, very consistent. So yeah, it's just been a tale of two kind of styles of racing, and you can definitely move your way up through the standings if you're consistent. I see these guys sliding back and forth. We saw Henderson slide to the lead in 1 and 2. Now he's falling back to third. I saw Lawson kind of get in the back of Nicewanger, and I think Nicewanger jumped on the chat and was like, "Whoa, what are you doing there?" So yeah, these guys are going for it here mid-race, just battling up here for the lead.
Oh yeah, we've crossed over the halfway point now. We know that there's going to be at least one more pit stop these drivers are going to have to make. It was a lot of give and take in the early portions of this race. I think we're getting more into that take territory than give. Saw a battle for fourth not too long ago between Ashton Lawson and Shane Nicewanger. Contact was made. Nicewanger was able to save it. You're talking about that hard battling there with Henderson trying to pull off the 2-for-1 slide job. We're starting to see these drivers be a little bit more aggressive in their movements, and I almost wonder, as we've seen it be a slower, more methodical pace that these drivers have had to run to be able to pick up positions on the racetrack, is that kind of exemplifying just the desperation maybe these drivers of wanting that race lead here when we get to that final round of pit stops.
Yeah, I think, ultimately there's going to be kind of two strategies. I think if anything, you're going to want to be, you look at what Peterson was able to do by pitting first. He was able to grab the lead for, the next 15 laps of this next run, right? So far, we're about 15 laps into it. And ultimately, he's had some challenges, but he's been able to hold the lead. If you think about that happening on this last run, if you're able to, hit pit road and then get out in front, if a caution comes out in the middle of that last run, then you're probably all going to come down and get tires, and you'll have control of the race. I like that opportunity. You just got to get through green flag. We got through them the first time, even though we had some issues. You never know. You got to get through the second time, and that might be a little tougher. But I think some of these guys that want to run longer, it's just taking a long time to slowly get back up there. I know there's not much difference in their tires ultimately. We see Madalinas now sneaking up into the picture. He's got the freshest tires here, a couple laps fresher than a lot of these guys. So we'll see if he can potentially get up here and battle up into the top three.
I was keeping an eye on Madalinas before we had the green flag pit stop, and he had just broken his way up into the top 10. Now, to your point, with those fresher Goodyears continuing to carve his way now maybe up into the top 5 here in preparation for that final pit stop, has done a great job. I think he was saving those tires on the long run on the first stint, and now that he's up here, got that track position, he's going to use up as much of those tires as he can to make forward progress and try to maintain it. Look at the fanning out here as Lawson almost all the way up to the wall. Nicewanger there in the middle. Another thing that we don't really talk about as well, obviously you want to be in somebody's draft to be able to make a pass, but when you get down here into the entry of the corner, clean air to the nose is king, and with all these viable options, that's why we see them fan out double wide, 3 wide here in several different lanes, because they want that turnability through the center of the corner. You don't get that. Caution's out. Hold that thought. Caution is out for the first time tonight here on lap 47.
I'm looking at the track. I don't see any issues on track. Maybe see the 73 here we're showing of Kyle Cooper. I'm not sure if he had any issues. It looks like he's running about where he was.
I think he was around 11th, 12th place, so he lost some spots.
The other guy I noticed that was maybe a little slow was the 85 of Cy Jackson. He was down a lap, so I don't know if he had a issue or penalty during his pit stops. He fell back there. It's about a lap down. We'll see. Looks like 73 in the one.
Matthew Durr up the middle, and Justin Mons gets the 73 sideways. Little half spin, he saves it, but the caution waves nonetheless.
And I heard one of the drivers jump on and was like, "That was a caution." Like, it was a nice save by the 73. I don't want to blame him for bringing out the caution, because ultimately I think he did everything that I would have wanted him to do to be able to save it and keep a caution from coming out, but it still did. So that's sometimes you're at the mercy of when the the system knows if there's a caution. But this is going to reset a lot of these drivers, battling for that last spot. It looks like everybody's coming down pit road. I am about 95% sure you can make it from here. We saw a lot of drivers go 30 to 31 laps, and here we are with coming to 31 to go. So they should all be able to make it no problem. It's a matter of just coming down and getting the tires. We'll see if any of these guys can jump to the lead.
This caution is going to be huge in regards for some drivers that are fighting for that final spot in the playoffs. Brent Kingcott was several seconds back from his next competitor. This will bunch him back up with the lead group, and there you see that bright green number 24 of Tony Manji coming off pit lane. This is the caution he wanted 49 laps ago after he had that pass-through penalty. Now he can finally start making forward progress through the field here, and he'll have a little south of 30 laps with which to do it.
Yeah, most of these drivers still have, 2 more sets on pit road of tires, so they all pretty much the tire game. If you're somebody that falls back, during this run, and we get another caution 5-10 laps from now, you can maybe come down and get tires then. So there's going to be a lot happening now that we got this caution. It kind of resets us and starts this kind of somewhat over, other than what track position you were able to gain. It looks like Duda and Lawson both doing a great job on pit road and able to jump past Christian Peterson for this lead here. And we'll see once we get the restart. I'd love to see once we get this lined up, and everybody crosses the line here, what our points situation is. I'd love to see what, guys like Kingcott and Durr, what are they going to have to do here in this last run? If it does go green, I think we might bring more cautions here, but we'll see how this goes this last run.
Yeah, Nicholas Caressel, this keeps him in the conversation as well, and as we said, brings Tony Manji maybe back into the conversation as well. Tonight, the race is called the Eric Kemp Memorial 160. It's not in memorial of Eric Kemp, but it could very well be in memorial of this racetrack, which unfortunately is no longer an incredible 2-mile speedway. And while we're on the subject of tracks, love the fact that NASCAR itself is going to Homestead Miami Speedway for the finale, but that's going to be our precursor for the playoffs next week for the 10 playoff contenders. We will be in southern Homestead Miami, Florida for the first race of the playoffs, that 1.5-mile racetrack. That's going to be a lot of fun. You talk about multi-groove, a lot of options. Drivers are going to have plenty of options there as well, and man, what a track to kick the playoffs off with.
Yeah, that playoff schedule right there makes me wish I was driving one of these trucks in the playoffs. That's a fun schedule right there. It's a great mix of tracks, a lot of driver tracks, a lot of our favorites for this series in that playoff push. So that'll be fun to watch as we come to the restart.
It is going to be 30 laps to go here. Only our first restart of the night. Jared Duda with a push from teammate Christian Peterson going to lead them down into turn 1. Those two will get clear on now the side-by-side between Hunter Madalinas and Ashton Lawson, two of the drivers that were very much in the conversation for the victory last week in the desert at Phoenix.
I want to point out Elliot Henderson pitted a second time there, so I don't know if there was an issue there, or if he feels maybe coming back down and topping off, or if there was a mistake there, but ultimately back loses a lot of his track position. Obviously, he was up there battling for this win earlier.
That will be something interesting to keep an eye on here. I mean, to your point, we should be well within the window based off of the green flag pit stop cycle we had to be able to make it the rest of the way. We know Henderson's got himself a fast race truck, but now gonna have to cut his way through quite a bit of the field. As close call there. Ashton Lawson pulling down across the nose of Jackson Sims. Look at him stacked up, 5th place on back. Got Shane Neiswanger now pulling to the right rear up there in the top side. He's got a push from Matthew Weeks. Our pole sitter, Josh Robin, is back in the conversation. And there is that white and green number 18 of Matthew Durr. He's now broken his way up into the top 10. He realizes that now that Kingcott, Tony Manji, drivers have some new life, he's got to play some defense by going offense.
Yeah, got to take advantage. We saw in that first run how some of these drivers that jumped up early and were able to grab a bunch of spots. I think that's not a, it's a little bit of a gamble. You got to hope that maybe this run doesn't go all the way green, but right now it's your best chance to gain some positions and maybe just see how it plays out the second half of the run. But yeah, some great battling, lots of side-by-side racing pretty much from fourth on back.
Highway traffic right now for these guys. Double wide and 3 wide all the way around the track. Shane Neiswanger trying to shoot up the middle on Josh Robin and Hunter Madalinas. You see Matthew Durr, he's trying to the outside of Ashton Lawson. Right behind him, Gavin Fitzgerald. And then behind them, Hunter Brittle trying to make his way back up to the front after we saw him have that slide at the entrance of pit road during the cycle of green flag pit stops.
Yeah, it just seems to be a great track for Hunter. Just slowly, we saw him kind of in the first part of this race be able to just drive up towards the lead. A little bit more work this time, obviously being so much farther back, but doing a great job just slowly moving his way back up here. Another guy that's really fast on the short run. We saw that at the start. Matthew Weeks up to third here. I noticed he's the guy that we always talk about long run. I figured that, a track like Auto Club with the high wear racetrack, I figured that would be another thing tonight, but he seems to be more on the short run here and being aggressive on these starts.
Well, it's a tough situation for the drivers, I would think, right? Because if we're in the window to make it the rest of the way, there's no guarantee that another yellow flag's going to come out and you can maybe take advantage, come down, take on another set of those tires that you have there in your pit stall. You kind of have to have the thought process that this thing may go green the rest of the way. This is about the bunched up everybody is going to be here, so take advantage of getting the track position while you can. Maybe pay for it on the other side rather than pay for it early, and as you documented, then have to go through the painstaking process late in the race of trying to get by one truck for every 3 laps. Oh, Trump on the back. That's Michael Sensi up into the wall. I believe that's Justin Mons in the 41 that got collected with him. Caution will wait for the second time tonight, so there you go. Now these drivers, their mentality can shift from long run to the end to now maybe splitting this final run in half.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. Just maybe 2 trucks kind of going for the same line, entering 1 and 2, but I know obviously both of them were up towards the outside. We'll have to see what happened. But Michael Sensi had an outside chance tonight if all things went, a perfect way for him to get in. Ultimately, this is going to end his playoff hopes, but yeah, it looks like Mons just got in the back of him even.
He saw near contact up ahead of him there with, I think that was Shane Neiswanger and Ashton Lawson. I wonder if that caused Michael Sensi to maybe back off a little bit more going into the entry to the corner in reaction to what was happening out the windshield. And you see right there, not able to react in time was Justin Mons. Did the 97 run into the back of the 26 there? Because it looked like he kind of stopped rather abruptly there, or slowed rather abruptly.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit of a chain reaction checkup. We saw that, obviously just close racing. Let's see here. Lawson right
on board with Sensi, and now just backs off a little early, and Mons wasn't ready for that.
It's just close proximity racing here. Especially just a handful of laps after the restart. I know we went about 6 laps there, but it's still interesting watching pit road, as it looks like we're going to have a lot of them coming down and pitting here. Pretty much everybody. I think, if you stay out, you're going to be, it's going to be short-lived up near the front. So a lot of these drivers coming down, they have another set left in the pits here beyond this set here. So a lot of them feeling pretty comfortable about where they're at. Come get tires and reset again. This is it's going to, throw out the fuel mileage thing. I thought that maybe that some of these guys, we saw Henderson pit a second time, and not sure if that was for fuel or if he had something else go on, but maybe some of these drivers felt like they weren't going to be able to make it on that run. I saw Madalinas, he was one that went 31 laps, but he was one that first run was running the pack, so I thought maybe he was dropping back to save. Now these guys don't have to worry about it. Off of pit road, Peterson's going to grab the lead back.
He'll get out ahead of teammate Jared Duda. Tony Manji is going to come out in the 3rd position, and I think that was a 2-tire stop for the 24.
I like that move for a guy that ultimately needs some track position here, and it's going to be tough to gain it any other way. So I we only went about like I said, about 6 laps green. So if you can run on fresh right side tires with your left side's green right now, that puts him 1 point above King Cod if he's able to stay there. I think it's going to be a little tough, but if you go 5-10 laps and then get another caution, maybe that ultimately gives you the spot to then be able to go race for it. If another caution comes out and you're able to get tires again. So I like it. It's going to make it exciting. Ultimately, we'll see where some of the other drivers cycle out here, King Cod, Durr, and see if any of them, how far back they're going to be of Manji.
Well, I mean, look as well who he's up here with now. His teammates in the 71 and the 53. So, if you're needing some help with some draft manipulation and whatnot, you've got drivers that are going to be able to, as teammates, help you in that regard. And I'll be honest, I'm surprised that a few other drivers didn't go with the two-tire strategy here to try and gain track position, specifically some of those drivers that are around that playoff bubble as well, kind of looking at maybe the 40 of Nicholas Caressel. Brett Kincott, I don't think he would necessarily need to, because I've been watching him ever since we had that last restart. He was slowly progressing his way up through the field, but maybe a long shot driver like Aiden DuPont. I'm surprised we didn't have some other drivers kind of maybe throw a Hail Mary shot here to see if they could gain some track position, and to your point, maybe catch a couple of cautions between now and the finish to maintain that track position, maybe see if they could sneak their way into that final 10th position in the playoff standings.
And I think with these cautions, now that we've had kind of 2 in a row here, you kind of start to wonder if we'll get more, and if aggressive restarts here, especially knowing that we're not saving anymore. You can race straight up these last 20 some laps. So it's going to be some aggressive racing here. It's just a matter of, can these guys that are battling for that last playoff spot survive, and then ultimately just we'll see who comes home with the last checkered flag of the regular season.
Well, this is only our second caution of the night. The sister track at Michigan, we ran 10 laps more and only had 2 cautions in that race. So we'll see if this might be the final restart of the evening as we're closing in on 20 laps to go. Peterson, Manji, great restart for them. Jared Duda now is going to be under fire. He'll have to look to drivers left to Matthew Weeks. Might want to keep an eye on drivers right, because here comes that purple number 6 of Jackson Sims.
And we talked about Jackson Sims, his teammate Brent Kincott. Sims was able to kind of grab his playoff spot last week. I think his best opportunity to help his teammate is get up here and battle. Maybe he's got to know that Manji's one of those guys that's trying to race him. If you can just be ahead of him. See Durr down on the inside here doing a great job on this restart. See if Sims has a chance to get up here and battle up to 4th now. Nice move to around the outside of Weeks.
We had 1 in the wall off of 2 that previous time by. I believe it was the 45 of Kurt Gibson. He's got it gathered up, continuing on, running currently in the 15th position. Look at him fanning out. 4, 5 different grooves as they make their way through 1 and 2. 3 wide around the 8th, 9th position with Manalinas, Josh Robin, Matthew Durr down there on the bottom. That 8 truck, all sorts of sideways there. Got to be a lot of movement off the wall and off the 7 of Manalinas, who he makes contact with. Durr up into the driver's side of the 7 as well. Tight squeezing here through 3 and 4.
Just trying to get all of it when you're Matthew Durr on the bottom there. Manalise is going to come down and maybe show a little displeasure with that 18, but I give Durr all the credit to go after it here. He's obviously trying to be aggressive here and gain a bunch of positions. Still not going to clear the 7 or the 8 here, but we're going to see him 3 wide still down the backstretch.
Yeah, he sees the 24 up there inside of the top 3. He obviously has got to be aware Brent Kincott is only a few trucks behind him. You saw him just shift from the bottom up to the 3rd lane as he's trying to close in on this battle. So the desperation moves are starting to take place here with these playoff bubble drivers, as I believe that was Eric Kepf getting spun down into the infield grass. No caution as yet. We stay green. That might have potentially been Jared Darling he went around off the nose of, but we stay green flag racing despite the truck spun out there in the infield grass in the front straightaway.
Yeah, tough break for Eric, ultimately just trying to get to the end of this race, and we'll have to look back at it at some point. But right now, these battles up front, And I started thinking Manji here, ultimately just kind of riding behind the 71, doing a great job on those 2 tires. I'm not sure if the 2 tires are enough to be able to go up there and pass Peterson. But man, if he could, that's an extra 5 more points for winning the race. That would be huge in his opportunity to try to grab that 10th place spot in the playoffs. So we'll see if anything. I think he's probably going to hope for another caution where everybody comes down and gets their last set. But I think a lot of people are going to jump on that 2-tire strategy because it's working for him.
Yeah, right now, Tony Manji in that second spot, as you said, seems pretty content to ride. What he needs to worry about now is having the 5 of Brent Kincott be more than 11 positions behind him. He needs Kincott to be running in 14th or worse. Well, guess what? He's running in 15th place. So that is 1 point separation advantage Tony Manji over Brent Kincott for that final 10th playoff spot.
These drivers are racing here. I think that a lot of these drivers are going to be falling off a little bit towards the end. It's a little shorter run than that first run that we had. So ultimately, these drivers able to use up their stuff. We see guys like Weeks and Robin who are really good on the short run, both back up here up in the top 10. Just kind of stuck right now. It looks like Sims and Duda battling for that 3rd spot. Sims doing a great job putting up a fight, even though he's kind of by himself on the bottom there.
Jackson Sims, he's been on a roll as of late. He ended up getting back-to-back 6th place finishes at Worldwide Technology and Texas Motor Speedway. We documented his runner-up finish last week at Phoenix, so he's been putting together some real solid efforts down the home stretch of this regular season. Now up here inside of the top 10 as one truck there had an issue, and now we've got a caution. Oh, we got a couple of cars around here. That's Nathan Nixon in the 33, Evan Snyder in the 93 on the back straightaway.
Yeah, running 18th and 19th, so obviously connected in some ways with this. Looks like Nixon's going to tow it back to the garage, but Evan Snyder in the 93 going to keep rolling here. But ultimately, that big wide apron on the backstretch, I don't know how much of the wall they got, but both went for a slide. I saw at the top of the screen a couple guys kind of sliding. It looked like maybe they were spinning out, and then the caution came out. So we'll have to see what happened with this these two battling the back half of the top 20.
About 6 to 7 green flag laps on that run, so we'll probably see drivers to pit road here under this caution, but I think we'll see a lot more drivers maybe go with the 2-tire strategy. Wow, it almost looked, it was hard to tell from that angle if they were already making contact. They were both slideways exiting out of the corner, and I don't know if the 33 got sideways first and then the 93 came up on them, or if they had already made contact at that point. Here's a better look. Oh yeah, he's already loose. He's already having to bail out of the throttle as that truck's pushing up to the wall, and nowhere Evan Snyder can go except into the back of him.
Yeah, and Snyder, you see him, he's kind of almost trying to get to the outside of it. I can't remember who that truck was to his outside, just trying to keep that position. And so I don't blame him for that. Trying to gas it up there, it's just kind of the perfect storm of gassing it up, and then the guy in front of you has to let off the gas. But lots of drivers coming down to pit road. It looks like maybe we'll have the 14 of Fitzgerald staying out, potentially the 63 of Kepf, looks like maybe. So maybe a handful of drivers. I have a feeling we might see somebody do 2 tires here. It worked pretty well for Manji. We'll see if any of those drivers try to jump on that strategy.
Oh, a lot of them. Look at that. Sims, Nice Wonger, Kincott, they've all gone with the 2 tires. Matthew Durr, I think he went with 2, as did Hunter Brittle. And all of a sudden, Peterson and Manji and Duda, they're looking around saying, where'd all these guys come from?
I think that was a great call. We saw how well it worked for Manji. To go grab those 2 tires. I think if you're the first one, it looks like it's going to be Sims. I think that's a great call here to be able to go try to grab this lead. Obviously, you'll have 2 trucks in front of you that are on older tires. You want to be able to try to dispose of them quickly. I think they're going to put up a pretty good fight considering everything. But we'll see how this goes. It'll be really exciting restart here. And now Durr having that opportunity, being up there. We'll have to see what this does to this battle for the final spot.
official list that went with 2 tires were Jackson Sims, Shane Nicewanger, Hunter Brittle, Matthew Durr, Brent Kingcott, along with Rod Fastenau and Cy Jackson. Everybody else went with 4. See Gavin Fitzgerald and Eric Kemp staying out. Now, doesn't surprise me to see a driver staying out maybe in Gavin Fitzgerald, but I am a little surprised to see Eric Kemp staying out, especially with the fact that during that last run, he was spun around in the infield grass. And I know that obviously most of that spin was down in the grass area where he doesn't wear out the tires, but a spin is still a spin. How good are those tires going to be underneath him here for this restart?
I don't know, but when your sponsor sponsors the race, you want to put a good run out there. I mean, if the name is the race is named after you, yeah, maybe just trying to get some TV time for our buddy Eric Kepf. So yeah, up front, we'll see how long. I think Gavin is Fitzgerald here. He's going to be the aggressive one. We'll see. I think Eric is more a little bit more relaxed, and maybe we'll give these guys the room if they're able to get alongside him. So we'll see. But yeah, exciting to see. There's really only 11 laps to go. Who knows? You get a couple cautions in a row, you could potentially keep this track position and maybe steal a top 3.
Look at that cut line battle there. 3 points from Kingcott back to Durr. And then not that far back is Tony Mongi in the 24. I feel like it's going to be those 3 that are going to be settling out for who's going to get that 10th and final spot in the playoffs. We're going to have 11 laps in regulation to settle this one out. The restarts have been very aggressive, very exciting. And now as we approach 10 laps remaining in tonight's regular season finale, expect them to turn the wick up just a little bit more, as Fitzgerald will be the control truck with Eric Kemp to his inside. Here we go, green flag back in the air at Auto Club.
Kepf already down to the inside. Just sounds like somebody spinning their tires. Maybe it was Kepf. I'm not sure. I wasn't able to hear it, but Fitzgerald to the outside. That's going to give Nicewanger the lead here. And Tim's going to try to go with him.
I don't know if there was contact, but Mongi had to really bail out of the throttle through the center of 1 and 2, and that stacked everybody up.
Nicewanger getting away with the lead here. We'll see if he can grab this and take control. I think Sims is going to be aggressive here. Now Durr up to 3rd. Nice job just getting through this and ultimately getting the track position he needs.
Shane Nicewanger back at Michigan brought it home in the 4th position after starting 17th. So he's really good at the 2-mile speedways, showing it here in the closing stages of this race tonight at Auto Club, as Matthew Weeks could not make the pass on Jackson Sims, able to find maybe just barely a truck length of space between Sims and the 18 of Matthew Durr.
Yeah, and Weeks was, really great on all these short runs tonight. He's going to show it again. A little bit fresher tires with the 4 tires here. Going to see if he can grab the lead. He's going to be just a little short. That's going to give these guys one last chance to maybe hold them off here.
An eye on that 18 of Matthew Durr in the 4th position. He's hoping that this is enough to be able to get that 10th position in points. Brent Kingcott right now in 12th, Tony Mongi in 13th place. It'd be super close right now between the 5 and the 18. I think the 5 still would have the advantage. So for Matthew Durr, it's a matter of trying to gain, but he would also like to get a little bit of help, have some drivers shuffle that 5 truck out and have him lose some spots, because right now, if you're Matthew Durr, there's not a whole lot of positions to move forward in front of you.
Yeah, ultimately, maybe here you got to know where those other guys have a great chance to get this win. If you're Durr, maybe you got to be aggressive here and try to go for this win. Ultimately, maybe just seeing how this plays out with these top 3. Weeks obviously seems to be a little bit faster, but Nicewanger and Sims doing a great job of kind of working together on that outside lane and holding them off here. We'll see how long they're able to do that with only 8 laps to go.
Look at that cut line there. It keeps fluctuating. Now Durr's got a 1-point advantage. They were tied for a brief moment. A big reason why Durr is now gaining the advantage on Kingcott. Last time through 1 and 2, he was in the middle of 4 wide. Now it is settled out in front of him. They are double wide. Well, not anymore. They're 3 wide again. They're with, I believe that is Cy Jackson, Gavin Fitzgerald, Elliott Henderson. If you're Brent Kingcott, the time to go is now because you're running out of laps, and Matthew Durr has got himself pretty well established inside of the top 5.
And it's just a tough spot right now to kind of a roadblock with all those guys battling in front of Kingcott, where Durr is able to hold on. Oh, we're going to see a spin.
Jared Duda goes around. No caution going to wave. I believe that was Hunter Madalinas that he went across the nose of. No caution as we remain green, coming around to 6 laps to go at Auto Club.
And Weeks still not able to get up there. And obviously Peterson's here racing with him, and there's no love lost between these two. They've had their moments battling for wins this year. But I think if you're Weeks, you're kind of hoping, like, Peterson, are you going to help me? Because I think we're going to be stuck battling these guys with the 2 tires, Nicewanger and Sims, if they don't work together and kind of draft. Because now Weeks is going to slide in between them. I think that's a good way to try to get them separated and go for this lead here.
I think the 2 of them are on that page you're talking about. They're on the same page. They're realizing, hey, we got to work together if we're going to get around these drivers on 2 tires. As soon as Peterson made that step out there into turn 3, Weeks jumped down there as well. Look at the side draft by Nicewanger. Weeks led the lap, but Nicewanger's got the side draft, he's got the momentum, and he's got the preferred line going here into 1.
Yeah, just can't get him cleared. I think it just depends on the momentum from the top side. The 71's going to be a little closer to the 56. He's going to make it 3 wide.
Weeks trying to tuck up in front of Jackson Sims, not clear to do so. Now if you're Nicewanger, you got to figure out which lane do I want to block.
It's going to be tight off of 4.
Whew, he cleared. Right up in front of Jackson Sims did Peterson. 4 laps remaining. Now if you're Nicewanger, you've got a truck that led most of the evening in Christian Peterson with 4 fresh feel-goods to your inside.
And Peterson did a great job of driving in there deep, but also kind of just sliding up a little bit just to maybe get Nicewanger to check up a little bit, or at least slow him down enough to grab the lead. He's cleared Nicewanger and pulled away even on the backstretch.
Update on Brent Kingcott. He is now faded outside the top 15. He's back to 19th place, so things are looking really good if you're a fan of Matthew Durr, who still continues to hang on in that 5th position. And remember, he was another of those drivers that went with the 2-tire strategy. Has done a great job of maintaining where he restarted.
Yeah, just a great drive tonight for Matthew Durr. Whatever happens here, just a awesome effort to go up here and ultimately a spot. He hasn't really run up into the top 5 yet tonight, and able to get up here now, even though he qualified up in the... Oh, there goes...
Whoa! And Jared Darling, I believe. Still no yellow, as that was on the back straightaway. Off the racing surface it was deemed, so the green flag still remains out here as Peterson will bring him around. 4 miles remain here at Auto Club in regulation. 2 to go.
Got to put a little more pressure on Durr, because obviously if people are spinning in between you and Kingcott for that last spot, that's less trucks for Kingcott and even needing to pass here. So we'll see. I think if you're Durr, you got to finish this thing out in the top 5. Great battle behind him with Lawson and Owens. It's just a matter of can one of them jump past him here and take that spot. Meanwhile, Peterson slowly pulling away from Nicewanger with the lead.
Lawson looking to the inside there of Matthew Durr. We'll keep an eye on where Durr and Kingcott are here in this final lap. But look at the gap that Christian Peterson's been able to build. He'll move low, not allow any slipstream, no draft from behind here down the front stretch. Makes his way into turn 1. Wraps the bottom right on that white line. Christian Peterson looking for his 3rd win on the season, looking to lock up the regular season championship, maybe more important, build some incredible momentum towards the postseason.
Yeah, what a nice job to just get clear. He lost the lead of the 4 tires from Weeks, but able to make that pass on those front 2 to get the lead in the end.
Eric Kepf, oh, got a cars up into the wall there. That's Tony Manji, but coming to the checkered flag as they spin across the start-finish line. Multiple trucks. The Eric Kepf 160 is going to go to Christian Peterson, and there you see it as they cross the line. 2 points give the final transfer spot to the 18 of Matthew Durr.
Yeah, what a drive by first of all Christian Peterson to grab the lead back after leading a lot of this race. We saw that early pit stop to grab the lead on the green flag pit stops, and then just a great job at Matthew Durr not giving up tonight. He obviously had to, most of this race kind of running mid pack, just trying to hold the track position. Saw that a lot of drivers saw that 2 tire from Manji. Maybe Manji just jumped on that strategy a little too soon, and it gave Durr the opportunity to go grab it and yeah, take a 2 point advantage as of the checkered flag and grab that 10th spot.
Christian Peterson came into this race in a 3-way tie for second most wins on the season with Hunter Madalinas and Matthew Weeks. They were second only to Daniel Nanny. Peterson will now stand alone with second most wins on the season, netting his third victory here in season 11. And you talk about coming up clutch for Matthew Durr. What a night to net your first top 5 on the season.
Yeah, awesome run for Durr. He's got to be. I'm excited. Hopefully, we get a chance to chat with him. It's awesome to see some of these drivers that are, the fringe top 10 guys who are just battling to try to get into that playoff spot, and to see somebody like Matthew Durr, who's been running this series for a long time. Unfortunate for Brent Kingcott, who obviously had the lead coming in tonight, but he gave it a heck of a run. He probably just a little frustrated, just didn't really play out the way it worked. Should have worked for him maybe, but just part of it. That's part of racing here at Auto Club. A little bit of the strategy in the end gets Durr that final spot, and a great job really of just holding on to the position once he got up there.
I think one of the big things as I'm looking here for Brent Kingcott, he was one of the drivers as well that went with the 4-tire strategy, but I'm looking in terms of the amount of time spent on pit road just a little bit longer than some of the others, while most drivers like Matthew Durr were able to come out inside of the top 10. He restarted back inside of the top 15, top 20, so he was already at a major disadvantage with a lot of 4 tires around him, and I think that might have been a deciding factor into him drifting back far enough for Matthew Durr to snipe that final playoff position. As you see, this is how the regular season is going to close out. Spencer Owens actually is going to leapfrog Elliott Henderson, so he'll finish out the regular season second, 34 behind Christian Peterson. Henderson there in third with Ashton Lawson, Matthew Weeks, your top 5, and then Nicewanger, Sims, the defending champion Hunter Madalinas, Jared Darling, and Matt Durr. That's your 10 drivers right there that starting next week at Homestead Miami Speedway will be running in this season's Great Lakes Truck Series playoffs. Let's see if we can go down to victory lane and dial up 3-time winner Christian Peterson. Christian, is the guys up here in the split second broadcasting booth. You got us?
Yes, sir.
Well, you certainly had the truck to beat tonight, out in front for a majority of this race, establishing out of the gate that this was going to be the truck that everybody was going to have to try and get around to end out this regular season with the final checkered flag. You had to really work and grind there in that final run against those 2 tires using that preferred lane. You had to really stay committed to the bottom. You were able to do so. How tough was it to remain patient, especially with the laps ticking away as quickly as they were?
Yeah, I was just trying to use the runs that I was generating to my advantage. They got side by side for the lead there, and um, I was able to throw it down there 3 wide and get by Weeks, and then side draft Shane there going into one, and then racing through 1 and 2, and just somehow got the run. I don't know. We got a run through 1 and 2. Like, I couldn't believe. I don't know. I mean, they took 2, or I don't know if Shane was on 2 or none, but I had 4, so that might have helped a little bit. But yeah, just I knew the truck was good. I knew we were good. Just had to make the right moves.
Third win here on the season. You get the regular season championship and some tremendous momentum going into the playoffs. We had a number of drivers, 9 in total, that mathematically were already locked into a playoff berth coming into this evening. So, what was the mentality once the green flag dropped here tonight in preparation for the postseason?
Um, just have a good race. I mean, I really just wanted to come out and win. Just kind of, yeah, I don't know. Just wanted to come out and win and do it for my mom. She's not doing too well, so we just want to dedicate this one to her and thank Manji and Duda there for all the help in the race. Duda was a hell of a draft partner there in the middle of the race, and then he got into a little bit of accident there, but it was a lot of fun. This track, it's kind of tough to get off the top, but it can make for some good racing.
Well, Christian, congratulations on your third win on the season. You've won at a bunch of different configurations now with Richmond, Worldwide Technology Raceway, and now Auto Club to cap off the regular season. Congratulations on winning the regular season championship here as well, which will net you some bonus points towards the playoffs. And we wish you the best of luck here in the postseason. Before we let you go and continue your celebration here tonight, floor is yours for Victory Lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, just like I said, just thanks to everybody. Maji and Duda, they did a hell of a job helping and being teammates during the race and working together. So thanks to them, thanks to Lide for spotting. Everybody else who puts the show on and all that. And yeah, thanks guys.
That's Christian Peterson. He's your winner here tonight in the Eric Kepf 160 at Auto Club Speedway. Congratulations once again on the victory here tonight. Best of luck as you look to carry this momentum from the end of the regular season into the start of the playoffs.
Thank you, thank you.
See if now Ross can get a hold. The driver brings it home runner-up here tonight on the two-tire strategy.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not too much. A lot going on for you. Coming home second tonight. Ultimately, trying the two-tire call. We saw that work for Manji early on in the run. A lot of drivers. I thought that was going to be the call. What were your thoughts on using the two tires to get the track position and battle for the win tonight?
Yeah, I wasn't sure about the two tires, but everybody on my team wanted to do it. Matt was in a tough spot on points. He needed every spot he can. Brittle did it, so I thought maybe if we all took two, it gave us a better chance to get a better finish for the team points. And then I think Eric had a problem on the restart, and Gavin was out there on old tires. I'm like, oh, well, now I have the lead. I held on better than I thought, and if the race was like 3 laps shorter, I could have won. Or I just needed one more car behind me. Jackson seemed to fall behind a little bit, and I couldn't. Once Weeks and Peterson got around him, it was going to be hard to hold those two off on new tires.
You started, pretty much just outside of the top 10 tonight, and gained a little bit of track position early. We saw, the long run to start this race, and then as the race got going, we had a little bit of a short run. What were you feeling out there? The racing, how it was crazy from where we were sitting. What was it like behind the wheel?
It's tough because you want to save tire, but you can't, and it's so hard to pass right now with the truck on iRacing. So you just kind of go and hope you have enough at the end. And that green flag pit stop, I know Brittle had a problem. I came in, leapfrogged a whole bunch of people, and Elliot and I couldn't get around the two cars in front. One was on older tires. I think they were pushing, just trying to stay out in front of Elliot and I. I had a chance. I could have pushed Elliot around and broke up their draft, and I should have done it at the time, but I didn't want to race until we got to the leader, and then it sort of felt like you were stuck on the outside. If a guy covered the outside, there wasn't really a whole lot you could do unless you had an advantage tire-wise. So track position was big, and with only 10 laps to go and I took the two tires, I figured it was worth a shot.
So now we enter the playoffs or the chase format for you. You're in the position to at least be one of those drivers. What's your outlook in this chase, and what are you looking forward to?
I don't know I don't know what the next race is, but
Homestead.
Homestead. Okay, well, sometimes I'm good there, sometimes I'm not, so we'll see. But if I can be consistent, and I'm not gonna win every race, I don't think, unless I go on some Tony Stewart run like he did that one year, I think 2012. I probably won't pull off 5 or 6 wins in the last handful of races. But if I can be consistent and other guys wreck out, then I think I'll be okay. And hopefully I got all the wrecks out around Pocono and in the middle of the season when I wasn't finishing great. So if I can get more top 5s, top 10s, I think I'll be okay.
Well, sounds good. We're looking forward to watching you in the playoffs. We'll give you a chance to thank anyone that you want, or shout out anybody from the team.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody at Dark Horse. Brittle, he was really strong early in the race. He had an issue coming to pit road, but he could have won. Same goes to Spencer. He was pretty good in that first run. I think he might have had some issues. He got shuffled back a little bit and didn't recover. Matt Durr, good job to him tonight. I think he got in by like 2 points. So he'll be in the playoffs. And then Matthew Weeks, he was the front runner for a lot of this race tonight, and he had a shot to win. So it was just a really good day for the team overall.
Well, thanks, Shane. Good luck in the playoffs.
Thank you, guys.
See if we can get a hold of another driver that's going to be going playoff racing here. Jackson Sims brings home third. Jackson's the guys up here in the booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Man, we talk about good momentum leading into the playoffs, and we documented you had those back-to-back finishes inside of the top 10 before going into Phoenix last week. You brought it home second place there, a podium finish here tonight at Auto Club. The wheels seem to be turning in the right direction here with the playoffs looming for this 6 truck.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, got a lot of momentum. I wouldn't consider the last 2 tracks, some of the best tracks, and ended up having, not great runs, but great finishes, which, as races are long, people make mistakes. If you stay consistent, you can pick up, a couple spots just by not speeding on pit road, not flying through your box and all that. But makes me really excited for the playoffs. I really like the schedule, other than Talladega, the wild card, but it's some really good tracks for me. So I'm really excited to get going in the playoffs.
You were one of the drivers on that final caution to go with the 2-tire strategy, gain track position, and were able to hang on to said track position pretty well against the 4 tires to your inside. What were some of the things you had to do differently to maintain that track position as opposed to earlier on in the night when you had 4 fresh tires underneath you?
Yeah, once I knew 2 worked when I saw Manji do it. I was kind of shocked more people didn't take 2 that last stop, but like this track, if you stay on the top, it's really, really hard for somebody to pass you. So even with that tire deficit, me and Shane were able to kind of work together and keep our spots as best we could. I know Christian got biased, but he's just really quick, so props to him. But as long as you kind of stayed on the top, you were all right as far as keeping track position goes.
Looking ahead here now towards the playoffs, some fun tracks, but some tough, demanding racetracks as well. As you kind of look forward, are there any tracks that you're really looking forward to? You mentioned about the fact that both Phoenix Auto Club, not really in your wheelhouse, but you came away with great runs there. Do you kind of hope for the same for some of these racetracks we got coming up here in the postseason?
Yeah, I think, Homestead's been good to me. Darlington, Rockingham too. I guess Talladega's wild card, and then the rest of the track except, New Hampshire, I think are good for me. So I got through the part of the schedule I didn't think I was the strongest at. So hopefully we can turn it up in the playoffs.
Well, we wish you luck with that. Congratulations. Solid way to close out the regular season as you now set your sights on going playoff racing for the championship. Great third place performance here tonight under the lights at Auto Club. Before we let you go, Jackson, we'll give you the opportunity here for some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Yeah, thanks you guys for doing the broadcast. You guys and Jeff. Thanks to my teammates, Brent, Rod, Cy, Travis went here this week. Really sucks, Brent. just missed out on the playoffs. He's worked really hard this year, so hopefully he'll get it back next year. And then everybody watch at home. Shout out my grandparents watching.
That's Jackson Sims, third place here tonight in the regular season finale, and he'll look to ride this momentum into the playoffs starting next week at Homestead Miami Speedway. Congratulations on the great performance here tonight, Jackson.
Thanks, see you guys.
Well, I'll tell you, when it comes to broadcasts like this, I wish we had heart monitors on the drivers because I would have loved to have known what the heart rate was of this driver here during the closing stages of this one. Ross, I think you've got a hold of the driver that got the final playoff spot here tonight at Auto Club.
Yeah, kind of an up and down night for Matt, but you did it. Ultimately, come home just 2 points ahead and grab that last spot. Always fun to get a fourth interview, especially when somebody that were able to secure a playoff spot. Talk about the night and ultimately the emotions of grabbing that last spot.
Yeah, well, I feel like for my qualifying spot, I think I qualified 7th. And I feel like if I could qualify or race pretty well, I could be top 10 and hopefully get lucky with Brent. And I know Manji had a penalty in Caressel, but being stuck on the bottom, the top is just so dominant when you get later in a run. It's just so hard to pass. When you're on the bottom, you just get passed so easily. So kind of learned that the hard way real early in the race. But once you got that first caution, I really just kind of said, you know what, just gonna go for it. I mean, I kind of knew where Brent was. I knew he was around the 16th, 17th range. So I knew I kind of had to finish somewhere around the top 5. So I just kind of said to heck with it and pushed it pretty much about as hard as I could. And ultimately just ended up making it. Thanks to Spencer and Hunter Brittle, my 2 teammates. Probably wouldn't have been able to finish where I finished without them. So thanks to those guys.
Ultimately, you're able to come home with the top 5, your first top 5 of the season, and ultimately get maybe a little bit of momentum. You probably weren't thinking about it much during the race, but obviously the races leading up to this race tonight, you weren't maybe thinking about the playoffs, but now you're in. What's your outlook on the chase and battling from this 10th spot?
The new season.
Yeah,
It's been obviously you said first top 5. I feel like I should have had at least 1 or 2. I mean, it's just been rough. Strategy hasn't gone my way. Maybe I've gotten caught up in a wreck. Maybe I've done something stupid and wrecked. But it's a new season now. I mean, I don't know how close I'm going to be for the championship, but I'm just going to kind of like what I did those last 20 laps, just go as hard as I can. I mean, I have nothing really much to lose now.
for sure. Nothing to lose. We loved watching you guys tonight. Go for it. You guys that are on the bubble, we saw multiple times, even a couple times in even a caution coming out, and you were in the replay, even though you didn't get any damage. So some close calls, but ultimately you were able to do it. So we'll give you this opportunity since you're here to do an interview to thank anyone and shout out anybody that you want to before we wrap up.
Yeah, again, thanks to my teammates, Shane, Spencer, and Hunter. And I know Weeks is in the Discord, Matthew Weeks is also a teammate, but the other 4, Shane, Hunter, and Spencer, they helped me out a lot, especially with how rough this season has been. They've just been a huge help whenever I am running well to just try to keep me up there inside the top 10 or at least top 15. And obviously, if it wasn't for against Hunter and Spencer kind of pushing me those last couple laps, I wouldn't have made it, I don't think. So yeah, thanks to those guys.
Well, you're in. Good luck in the playoffs, and we'll be watching.
Yep, thank you guys.
So Matt Durr nets that final 10th position in the playoff standings. The grid is set, and now 10 Warriors get ready to go to battle for 10 races to see who's going to get the championship here in. Or I'm sorry, correction, they're going to battle for 8 races to see who's going to get the championship here in Season 11 of the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. Ross, we knew coming in. We knew the points were close. We knew there were going to be a couple of long shots, but there were going to be about 3 or 4 drivers that there were enough points on the table. We're going to make this battle down to the wire. I'm not sure we expected it to be as close as it was, because not only did you have that 2-point separation between Matthew Durr and Brent Kincott, but Tony Manji got the caution he needed to get back into the conversation late as well. So it made things very interesting, especially with the strategy we saw in the closing stages with those last couple of yellows.
Yeah, and I thought that the strategy was probably, I think if you're Brent Kincott, you can't be, too shook up about it, because I think he called the right strategy, just maybe a little too far back with his track position to take advantage of it. We saw, the 2 tires by Manji on the previous caution gave him kind of the second life and gave him opportunity to at least put some pressure on Durr and Kincott, but that just kind of opened the door for everybody else to take the 2 tires. And I kind of said, if you're going to take the 2 tires, if you're one of those first guys, we saw Nicewanger and Sims, and then even just Durr being able to be one of those couple trucks that were up near the front with those 2 tires, it was going to give you a chance to be able to, get that clean air and then ultimately play a little defense to hold your position. Where I think for Kincott, it's probably, middle of the pack. It probably, those 2 tires were just, a massive disadvantage compared to the guys that are up front. So I think ultimately made the right call. I think he probably wishes he'd take the 4 tires, but you never know if that would work out, because ultimately, the 2 tire strategy got a majority of our top 5 were on 2 tires. So it was fun to watch. Nice little battle. Great job by everybody that was racing on the bubble to be aggressive and put on a show tonight. And then Christian Peterson to grab the momentum we talked about heading into this playoff.
Well, how are these playoffs going to end? We're going to have to get them started to find out. Next Tuesday night, we begin the postseason here for the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series as 10 drivers begin their journey at the Homestead Miami Speedway. We thank you all for joining us here tonight for coverage of the Eric Kepf, actually not dead, Memorial 160 powered by Amazon. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you guys for the playoffs next week. For Ross Brockman, Jeff Johnson, our producer, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys next Tuesday night as the playoffs kick off here in the Great Lake Racing Truck Series on Split Second Broadcasting.